Call to order of a regular meeting of the Goodyear City Council, November 13, 2007. Would you please join Councilmember Souza in Pledge of Allegiance and invocation?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we pray that you guide this council and its deliberations this evening for the betterment of all who live in this city. We ask that you protect the men and women employees of our city in the functions they perform for this community on a daily basis. Further, we ask that you take into your arms those of our military who have given their lives to bring democracy to the countries of Iraq and Afghanistan, and for those that remain, bring them home safely as soon as possible. We ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All council members are in attendance. We have no expenditures to approve or ratify. We do have communications, however. We start with the recognition of attendees from the Community Emergency Response Team, the CERT Training 3 class, and Tim Newbold will lead us off there. Tim, welcome back. Good. Yeah.
Mayor and Council, how are we doing this evening? Thank you all very much for this opportunity. I'm just excited we made it through another 10 weeks. And I don't know who's the most excited, them or me. We had a wonderful class. This is our third CERT Community Emergency Response Team. Thank you very much, class that we've had for the City of Goodyear. I want to thank you all very much for your support at the beginning, as well at the end of the class, and even during. We've had city manager, deputy city managers, chiefs come through and speak to the class, so we're greatly appreciative of that. We're going to be very brief. Just want to introduce to you all. I just want to say to you, Councilwoman Lord, we missed you this time.
I'll be there next time.
Okay, wonderful. Had a lot more gore this last one, so I think it's going to get better next time.
Okay.
All right. And any of you are more than welcome to come if you'd like to be a part of the exercise and training that we do at the end. I would just like, if I could, we're going to do this real quick, and then we have our own gathering that we're going to go to, so we won't be in your hair for very long. I'm going to call out the name of those from Class 317-3, and if I miss you, make sure, like you did when we went through training, throw something at me, and we'll get it done. But I also wanted to, before I say thank you to them, I want to say thank you to their spouses as well, because this was a 10-week class from 6 supposedly to 9, sometimes 9:30 in the evening, so they were away from their families as well. So for those that did bring their spouses, I want to thank you all very much for the patience that you had with them. Okay, here we go. Wendy Neely, and if you just keep standing. Beth Haddon, and I want y'all to know in advance I will mispronounce someone's name. Jeff Rosano, already standing. 16, correct?
That's great.
15. Technically, he's not in our class, but he came with his parents. He's supposed to be 18. Has parents' signature and right alongside, so with the pleasure of having him with him. He'll be a future emergency manager. I'm grooming him right now.
All right.
Ross Rosano. Have you hit 18 yet? 18-ish. Good answer. Kathy Strout, exactly. There you are. Okay. James and Lynn Sprague. Want to thank them for, was it coffee? Every Starbucks coffee every night, except for the last one. Somebody told me not to bring it. I don't know who did that. Okay. Judith Grady, Janet Gundy, Marge Matthews. I would like for Jim and Teresa Orloff to stand. They didn't want to, but this couple right here, they've been through the class already, and these are volunteers that have come back to help train volunteers through the class. So I did want them to stand as well, even though his wife didn't want to. Oh, did I say that already? Okay. Pamela Miller, Jennifer and Matthew Papworth, Carol Rosano. You did all the sneezing earlier, correct? All right. Carol Talitsky. Did I say it right that time? I am trainable. Beverly Botter. I must have said it right. Okay. Everett Skip Burgett. I call him Burgett all the time. He corrects me all the time. And then I just would like to say this lastly. There was a young lady that we had in the prior class that wasn't able to make it, and you all probably don't know her too well, but I would like for her to stand. Her name is Wally Campbell. Did she leave? She left again, but she came back through, so I'll make sure to remind her that she left me hanging once again. But this is our class number. She's not standing behind me. She's a little bit short, challenged. But anyway, Mayor and Council, this is our 317-3 class for CERT, trained for CERT. And I just want to once again thank you all for allowing me to bring them here, to recognize them to you and the council.
Okay, well. On behalf of the entire council staff and the residents of Goodyear, we're very thankful that you're donating your time and energy to help those residents. So I'm not sure we really want to have a situation arise where we have to use those capabilities, but if we do, and that's what happens in life, you're going to be ready. So we thank you very much for preparing us for that.
All right, great. Thank you much.
Okay, we'll now move to a presentation for the Communications Office Marketing Campaign Award. Paul Ilardo.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. That's a tough act to follow. But I come with very good news. One of the key things is the ultimate challenge that any city government has is to make sure that its residents are supporters and not critics. And that's a key role that we play in marketing and communications. And when our sanitation committee a year ago came up with the idea to change the #1 rated service in our city, the twice weekly sanitation, we knew that we had a big job in front of us. Even though Brian and his people put together a wonderful program, the key too, besides doing the program, was bringing people on board and convincing them that it wouldn't be a lot of heartache. We had to change a lot of behaviors. We had to tell them that their price was going up. They were getting one less pickup than they thought, even though we were adding recycling. There were just a lot of behavioral changes, and many times that's very hard to bring your people along and have them be supportive. And I think if you'll agree that one of the things we did do is we got very few complaints from that program. First of all, the sanitation people carried it off beautifully, and I have to thank very much Michael Leone, who designed Kirby and all of the materials that we did. And then we brought Kirby to life with Kirby and the Collectors, and Kathy Hosian became Kirby when our original Kirby chose to go to another city. And we had employees who sang in that and did overtime with in order to do that. And I think they're really a great group. So when we went to our national conference of 3CMA, which started 20 years ago to bring private sector marketing to the public sector, we entered it in the marketing campaign for marketing tools of services, and we won the top award. And besides that, there were 700 entries, and we won the President's Award for the best marketing entry in the country. So I just like to. This is the President's Award, which we're very, very proud. And the Savvy, which is for the individual category for the best marketing campaign. So I just have to say we have a great staff in communications, and Kathy Hosing, by the way, I can't forget her. She also did all the stuff on the web, and remember we signed up 2,700 people voluntarily who hadn't been signed up before. And while I'm up here, we got 3 more awards that came in today, not to our department, but actually it's to Brian's group from the Critics' Choice, which I think you saw in the West Valley View today. We got the Best Public Park, again, for the 3rd year in a row. We got the Best Kids Place. When I asked him what that was, I assumed it was the skate park. West Valley View thinks it is too, so we'll say it is. And we got the Best Fireworks Display, so congratulations.
Well, congratulations, Paula. It's great work. And, all your folks were involved, as were Brian Barnes, but certainly you and Brian led that effort, so we thank you very much for that. Just a quickie, how do the public feel about this new collection system now that it's been enforced for a while? It was the number one, you said their number one service.
In this latest survey, it was still the number 3 highest rated service.
Behind.
EMT and bulk. Bulk trash was 1, I think EMT was 2, and then the once weekly trash pickup was rated 3rd.
Good.
That is good.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move to citizen comments, appearances from the floor. Time for any resident to address the council on any subject which is not on this evening's agenda. Again, if it's a non-agenda item. So I know we have at least one, do we?
Mr. Mayor, yes, Richard Kirschbaum would like to speak.
Okay, Richard?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just here to respond that the odor at Lipsco is not totally gone. I did talk to Bob Dodd yesterday at the Safeway gas station to discuss it. He would like me to pinpoint it and give him some time so he can try and track it down. But we did missed a meeting and found out that the report was that it was A-OK, no more odors, but there still is some odor. So I just want to let you know.
Can you get back to us after you and Mr. Dodd meet and he responds to your concern?
Well, Matt is here this evening, and I think he might respond.
Okay. Oh, you have a response already?
I can talk about it if you'd like.
Okay.
Sure. No problem. I told Richard I'd do that. My name is Matthew Garlick. I'm General Manager of Lipsco. Thank you, Mayor and council members, for letting me speak tonight. We do realize that there's some occasional odors that are surrounding the plant. In the last couple of weeks, we've endeavored to continue to make improvements, which we have. However, from time to time, we do see some odors in the collection system as well as in the community around us due to potential plumbing issues. We've done some surveys and found that out. So we're working with tenants to rectify those heat trap issues where those are drying up and we're getting sewer gas in the building. That's a maintenance issue, but we're working on helping those folks out. But Mr. Kirschbaum is correct that, from the time to time we'll have some collection issues and we're working on those to try to rectify those. So, Any questions?
Okay. Anyone else in the public wish to comment on the non-agenda item? Okay, thank you. We'll now move to consent agenda. Ask the city clerk to read consent items A through Q by title only, please.
Item A, council will consider approving draft minutes of a regular meeting held on October 22nd, 2007. B, council will consider adopting resolution number 07-1192, declaring certain public rights-of-way to be unnecessary for public purposes and vacating certain public rights-of-way for a portion of Broadway Road located east of Cotton Lane within the Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park development. C, council will consider adopting resolution 07-1193, declaring certain public rights-of-way to be unnecessary for public purposes and vacating certain public rights-of-way along the south side of McDowell Road located west of Pebble Creek Parkway along the Pebble Creek Village Marketplace frontage. Item D, council will consider adopting Resolution 07-1194, declaring certain drainage easements to be unnecessary for public purposes and vacating certain drainage easements located within the Pebble Creek Village Marketplace development. F, council will consider adopting Resolution 07-1198, authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Avondale for design and construction improvements to the intersection of Dysart Road and Van Buren Street, providing for an effective date. F, council will consider adopting Resolution 07-1190, declaring as a public record that certain documents filed with the city clerk and entitled Engineering Design Standards and Policies Manual of October 2007 for the City of Goodyear, Arizona. Item 2 of F, council will consider adopting Ordinance 07-1092, adopting City of Goodyear, Arizona Engineering Design Standards and Policies Manual dated October 2007 by reference, repealing City of Goodyear, Arizona Engineering Design Standards and Policy Manual dated July 1997. Item G, council will consider adopting Resolution 07-1191, declaring as a public record that certain documents filed with the city clerk and entitled Supplemental Standard Details for Public Works Construction of October 2007 for the City of Goodyear, Arizona. Item 2 of G, adopt Ordinance 07-1093, adopting City of Goodyear, Arizona Supplemental Standard Details for Public Works Construction dated October 2007 by reference, repealing City of Goodyear, Arizona Supplemental Standard Details for Public Works Construction dated July 1997. Item H, council will consider approving an amendment to the professional services contract with Brown and Caldwell in the amount of $24,949 to complete the development of standards for the City of Goodyear's supervisory control and data acquisition system, which is SCADA. Item I, council will consider approving the 2008 City Council meeting schedule and calendar. Item J, council will consider authorizing staff to enter into a contract with Martin Malo Company for construction manager at risk construction phase services for the Goodyear Ballpark and Recreation Sports Complex, guaranteed maximum price GMP to an amount not to exceed $4,168,899. Item K, council will consider authorizing staff to enter into a contract with Speedy and Associates in the amount not to exceed $127,720 for materials testing related to the Goodyear Ballpark and Recreational Sports Complex. Item L, council will consider adopting Resolution 07-1195, authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Maricopa County Department of Transportation to implement a cooperative maintenance program, providing for an effective date. Item M, council will consider adopting Resolution 07-1196, authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Arizona Department of Transportation to allow ADOT to perform inspections of all City of Goodyear public bridge structures according to the National Bridge Inspection Standards, providing for an effective date. N, council will consider approving a preliminary plat for the Cobblestone Creek Commercial Center, subdividing approximately 12.75 acres into 8 commercial lots located at the northwest corner of the McDowell Road and Pebble Creek Parkway in the Palm Valley Planned Area Development, subject to stipulations. O, council will consider approving a final plat for the Cobblestone Creek Commercial Center, subdividing approximately 12.75 acres into 8 commercial lots located at the northwest corner of the McDowell Road and Pebble Creek Parkway in the Palm Valley Planned Area Development, subject to stipulations. P, council will approve the design guidelines for Estrella Commerce Park and approve 562-acre commercial and industrial planned area development to be located at the southeast corner and southwest corner of MC 85 and Estrella Parkway, subject to stipulations. Item Q, council will consider approving a request from Verizon Wireless for a special use permit to allow a wireless communication facility on .04 acre generally located at the northeast corner of MC 85 and Litchfield Road, subject to stipulations.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone in the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Okay, we're going to have a couple recusals here on the consent from council. Does anyone in council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for a reason other than recusal? Councilmember Cavalier?
Item P,
Okay. Yes. You want to discuss it? or-
well, I want if you
You,
really...
are you want it removed, or do you want to
No,
discuss it?
I'd like to discuss it, I'd like to...
Why don't we do that now, then, if we could?
We could, yes.
Okay.
I have a question on that. Where, in the design, I've read where it allows for streets and parkways, but I do not see a place in there where it allows for the easement for the I-10 reliever.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Cavalier. That area was designated within the PAD when the PAD was originally approved. Typically, these design guidelines come before you as part of the PAD approval. They simply weren't refined at the time, but that area was discussed and shown on various maps within the PAD.
But does that...
I assume that ADOT has certain standards in terms of landscaping and streetscaping that would be followed for the access
My concern
ramps.
is that this PAD, if we approve it tonight, does it have that stipulation in it? Will there be, or will there be problems when it comes time for an easement for the I-10 reliever? And where will that I-10 reliever be pushed to if need be? Because as I see it here, it doesn't.
Well, the general area for the reliever, because at the time the PAD was approved, it was simply a general area. I believe it was about 1,000-foot wide designation that was shown on the PAD, and that was depicted on the PAD land use plan. It was discussed in the PAD. There are several stipulations that deal with modifications that'll have to be made to the PAD because of the determination of the final alignment.
Okay, and that's on the Broadway Road alignment. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
In that general area.
Doesn't have to be indicated on your map?
Not within the design guidelines. As I said, it was all discussed, and stipulations pertaining to it were part of the PAD you approved in April.
When you say PAD, you're talking about the Estrella Commerce Park PAD.
Yes, that's correct, the rezoning that was done back in April.
Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Any other items to remove for reasons other than recusal? Okay, we have a couple that we need to listen to on recusals. Okay, Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Yeah, just make a practice not to vote on ADOT items, so, because they're a client, and remove item M as in Michael.
Can you tell us the item number?
M as in Michael.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Yes, items J and K, because of my involvement with the construction companies.
Okay, any others? Okay, then, go ahead.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as read by the clerk, excluding items J, K, and M.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Lord. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Antoniak,
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa,
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier,
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Lord,
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Okay, J and K are not resolutions, so I don't need a roll call vote on that, is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
Do not.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do
Okay,
those now.
let me ask Councilmember Cavalier if you depart. And could I have a motion to approve J and K, please?
So moved.
Motion from Councilmember Souza, second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. All those in favor of approving J and K signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. 6-0. Okay? Now, Councilmember Cavalier would return. And Vice Mayor's recused himself. Could I have a motion to approve council consent item M, please?
So moved. Second.
Motion from Councilmember Lord and a second Councilmember Holland. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Souza.
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne. Aye. Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
Okay, good, thank you. Well, we will now move to the business part of our agenda, and we'll start with consider approving a professional services contract for an organizational assessment of staff supporting the mayor and city council. Roy Massey will present.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm fighting a bit of a cold this evening, so I may lose my voice halfway through, but we will do the best we can. Last week's meeting, and the mayor and his report to council gave a preview of coming events, and the item he referred to as far as an organizational assessment referred to this item this week. What you have in front of you is a contract in the amount of $10,500 with Dr. Hilda Allred and Ms. Joyce Friel, who are organizational development and effectiveness consultants, to give an independent review of the staff positions assigned to the Office of Mayor and Council. Basically, what this review would do on a micro level is what was conducted by the Matrix organization on the macro level. It'd be taking an independent look at the reporting structures, staffing, organizational relationships, spans of control, job descriptions, and other factors involved in the Office of Mayor and Council, the staff positions. This office was created in its current form a little under a year ago, and some issues have been raised about were these issues looked at the time this department was put together, or this division, this working group. With that in mind, and because of concerns that had been raised, the mayor asked me several weeks ago to find an organizational consultant to come in and take a look at this department. Well, after making some phone calls, I determined that what we needed was consultants in the field of organizational development. Following up on that determination, I made some more phone calls to try to get some good referrals to consultants in the business world, not necessarily the government sector, to come in and take a look at this division and make recommendations on whether this division as it currently exists and its current reporting structure makes sense purely from an organizational perspective. It's with those tasks in mind and with recommendations I received from the private sector, I contacted 3 organizational development consultants, discussed this project with all 3, got formal submittals from 2 organizational development consultants, and I'm recommending these 2 individuals to you this evening based upon their many years of experience in this field. And they are here in the back row this evening and are certainly available to answer any questions you may have about how they would approach the task, about their qualifications. But basically what they do is come in and do a 360 on this 3-person working group, much like you do a 360 evaluation on an individual when making doing a personnel evaluation or making a hiring decision. They would meet with each of you individually and get your perspective, given the unique nature of this working group's relationship with the mayor and council and the organization. They talk to senior management in the organization, of course, meet with all 3 individuals that are currently in place in this working group. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions or the potential consultants are available as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the public wish to comment on this question? Okay, we'll move now to, could I have a motion, please, to approve professional service contract for an organizational assessment of staff supporting mayor and council?
I move that we, so moved.
So moved. Okay, motion?
Look for a second?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Holland and a second from Councilmember Cavalier. Councilmember Holland, we'll start. We're given.
Okay. I guess, Rourke, I just wanted to see, this is going to help us with efficiency, because that would probably be a number one concern here, that we'll get better and more efficient and communication will improve.
I believe that would be one of the goals that was expressed that the consultants would take a look at and address in their recommendations to the city.
And the plan would be that once we have these recommendations back from our consultants, we would work to get these in place promptly.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Holland, that is my understanding. I will address just briefly one of the potential changes would be reporting structure. As you're aware, currently this working group does report to the city manager's office. Potentially, the consultants will look at whether or not that makes any sense from an organizational structure, and should the recommendation be that that direct reporting structure be moved from the city manager's office to the mayor and city council or some other reporting structure. That may take a little bit longer time to implement, i.e. under the city charter, all administrative functions flow through the city manager's office. So if you were going to fundamentally make that change and have direct reports, I believe that's going to require a change to the city charter, which could be accomplished, but it's not going to be quick. It could be a 6 to 9 month proposition to get to a vote of the people.
Okay. How does this fit with the matrix recommendations that were made?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Holland, I am not aware that Matrix necessarily made any recommendations on this subject. I could be wrong, and the city manager could address that. He's more familiar with their recommendations.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Holland, Matrix does address this point. There are about 240 recommendations in total with the Matrix assessment. Parenthetically, we'll have that report from management back to City Council latter part of this week is what we're proposing. On that particular item, Matrix is very specific in that it says that it needs to be looked at, but it also recommends that it should be deferred until the hiring of the next city manager.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I respond to your question? I actually have the matrix report, so give me a second here to get my paperwork in order. And I would agree with Mr. Dalkey's comment, but it says here, okay, let me get this one. This is the final report, and I'm going to give you the final draft. And it says, the role of the chief of staff vis-a-vis the city manager's office must be clear. The mayor, city council, and city manager's office should clearly define in writing the role of the chief of staff in the organization. That should include such issues as how information is requested by the chief of staff from departments, the authority of the chief of staff vis-a-vis department managers and supervisors, communication with other members of the organization, etc. It is essential that the roles and responsibilities of the city manager and the management of the municipal organization not conflict with the roles and responsibilities of the chief of staff. This can only be accomplished if the role of the chief of staff is clarified. And then it says, upon appointment of the new city manager, the mayor, city council, and city manager should discuss the most appropriate reporting relationship. And then it made a recommendation of that. That was the final report, but what happened was the final draft said something else. And I assume the working group members with me recall this, and I think everybody on this council got a copy of this, frankly. But the final draft, and it was changed, in the final report. The final draft said, assignments for the position are received from, carried out for, and reported to the mayor and city council. Yet supervisory oversight of the position is provided by the city manager. This will lead to confusion regarding lines of authority. Since assignments for the position are received from, carried out for, and reported to the mayor and city council, this position should report to and receive supervisory oversight by the mayor and city council. Recommendation, the chief of staff position should report to and receive supervisory oversight by the mayor and city council. Of course, we aren't suggesting that in this particular action item. We are suggesting it be studied by an independent person. This was changed. Clearly, someone interfered in this process at the final stages of this report. And so I would assume the easiest thing for Matrix to do is just write it off, let's get the report done, and we'll let them worry about it later. That was not their intellectual assessment of the issue, however. It's just that they changed it to get the report done. So does that answer your question? I think so. Thank you. Okay. Yes, Mr. Souza.
Yeah. Wouldn't the city charter defines the duties of the city manager in the area of employment and responsibility? How would the adoption of something like this being recommended here by this study affect the charter itself? Wouldn't the charter have to be changed in some form and go to the public and have the public vote on it?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Sousa, yes, that's what I attempted to convey a couple of minutes ago, that if that recommendation were made, and if that's the decision the city sought to pursue, yes, it would need to go to an election and be approved by a vote of the people. And it would require some significant changes in the city charter. That's where I referred to Councilmember Holland, that it would be a 6 to 8 month process to implement that particular change, assuming it gets on the ballot for next November's election.
So up until that time, then, these individuals that are concerned with this arrangement would be operating under the guise of their responsibilities at the present time. Is that correct?
Technically speaking, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But, Lori, but only if we wanted to change something in the charter. It
Correct.
would not be necessary.
Correct.
But it still would be a period of 9 months before.
No.
We can't.
Only if we change something in the charter.
But the charter, any changes in the charter.
It may not. It may not. That's what Roy was saying.
Well, excuse me, I'll try to be clear. The charter indicates that all employees report, with the exception of myself and the city judge, report to the city manager. So if you were going to make a fundamental change and remove other employees and make them direct reports to the city council, yes, you would need to make a charter change, and that would require a vote of the people.
So if, for example, the recommendation of Peak Performance Consulting states that these individuals are to report directly to the city council and the mayor and the city council, then that definitely would have to go to charter.
Correct.
Okay.
But you could still clarify the roles and responsibilities of
Yes.
the person.
Absolutely.
Without waiting for a charter change. You're talking about is who would the person report to, and that might take several months.
Correct.
But the understanding of what the person is supposed to do would be clear much sooner, once the report's received. Yes, Councilmember Holland. Lord.
City manager, interim city manager, have you taken any time set aside, and have you counseled with any other cities? Because some cities do, or started out like we have, gotten a chief of staff and then have added to it. Have we done any of that inquiry?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lord, we have just started to do that as this became to the forefront. We started asking other cities as far as their relationships, the reporting structures. We've not gotten anything official at this point. We've just started our inquiries.
This is where I have somewhat of a problem, is that I really believe in consistency.
and we're all elected officials, and we're here today and gone tomorrow, including the mayor. So we're in and out. So I've always been comfortable with the city manager handling it just for consistency purposes. And the other thing that bothers me is I think the timing of this. We are now interviewing for a city manager. He's coming on board, it looks like January, 60, 90 days. When is he coming on board? What are we looking at, probably?
Well, we're still working for
No,
January
we're still
1st.
looking, but
Yes.
if we make a decision, we're looking January probably,
Yes.
right? January, February.
Yes.
My feeling is that there are 3 well-trained individuals in this department, and they should be able to sit down with the city manager and be able to structure out this relationship for these 3 months until we get a city manager in. And then we can come back together with his information from her, and his or her information from the structures they've been in to give us some concrete advice before we spend the money. If it was an office of 10, 12 people, but it's an office of 3 people. And I understand that that there's been some problems as far as the organizational part of it goes. I mean, I don't deny it's been difficult probably on all 3 individuals. But I still feel that we could delay putting this kind of money into this study. Although, I have to tell you, I am extremely impressed by the credentials of the consultants that you have gotten. So please, that's no affront to you.
Further comments?
Yeah.
Yes, Vice Mayor?
I think you've got, I mean, there's no doubt that the staff's at an organizational disadvantage, and that we've got a challenging environment in the sense that you've got folks that are reporting to the manager, that are walking around on a daily basis with us, dealing with policy matters, dealing with a variety of different issues. But I really fall down on the fact that you separate this into two different issues. You know, you've got a political issue in the fact that if we feel we need staff, and we need staff to report to us and be at will based on when we're in office and how we're in, and they come and go, much like you see in other parts of the country, and even in 1 or 2 other cities in the valley, you see political staff come and go with the political forces and the political winds. That's one question, and I think that's a question that resides here at the dais and resides here at a discussion as to whether or not we form a charter committee and whether or not we want to spend, $25,000 to $50,000 of taxpayer money on a number of different issues. I'm sure we've got cleanup issues in the charter, and if we need to address that, let's do so. Let's have that discussion at a board or a council retreat, a council advance, whatever you want to call it. But that's really a political discussion. This one for me rests on the side of the policy, and I err towards the charter and the administrative function of the city manager's office, and would really like to see solutions come out of the manager's office, not out of our body. And so I'm actually not going to support this evening, and rest with the fact that, and ask Brian if it fails this evening, charge your staff to go back and come up with 3 or 4 issues. And you gave me an afternoon, I could call 5 or 6 different cities that have similar structures, reporting structures, and the like, and figure out how things work, how things don't work, and professionally put that down on paper and make a recommendation to this body. If you need this body's inclusion in that process and inclusion in that discussion, so be it. If you need us to, in terms of an advisory capacity to do so. But for me, this walks the fine line and the tightrope of stepping into, in this case, Brian's shoes. In the next case, 3 or 4 months from now, he or she's shoes.
Right.
Whoever is there. So I really, no offense to the consultants that are there, professionals. I know that there's a place for them in the future of the city in terms of organizational development and personal development, but not on this one.
Well, the consultants, there's no reason to apologize to them. They haven't done anything.
No, they drove, but they spent a lot of time and effort and drove out here this
Yeah,
evening.
they took an evening to come here.
Okay,
That alone.
Councilmember Cavalier, you ready?
Well, I will support this because I think it needs to be done, and I think that we need to go through this process, even though we haven't completed this other research. I think it still needs to be done. We need to go through this and redefine, if need be, those positions. It's very important for us to have a firm organizational understanding of how these people will operate and who they will report to. So I will support this.
Councilmember Souza.
Mr. Mayor, it would be important for me to determine what size of cities currently have chief of staffs. Do chief of staffs have a level of our city population? Are they involved in that? Or is it larger cities that have these categories of employment from an administration standpoint? So I would hope that the city manager would take that into consideration when he's researching the situation.
Can I ask a technical question? Rourke, you stated that Matrix, their approach was on a, which one you said?
I think a macro level.
Okay. So why are they not capable then, if we were to go back to them and say, hey, you know, we spent all this money on your report, can you not relook at this? No charge? I mean, is that not an option here? I hesitate. I don't even hesitate. I do not want to spend this kind of money on something I think our management staff can handle. But if it came down to getting another consultant's thought, why would we not be going back to Matrix to let them finish the job?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Osborne, that could be viable. I think they're going to have to do a significant amount of work to make these recommendations, because you're going to have to be looking at all aspects. You're going to have to do a survey of the other cities. One of the elements in the scope of work is survey other cities, see what their organizational structure is, see what works, see what doesn't work before making that recommendation. I don't know whether that was in their original scope of work, but I did understand that they did not want to address it for whatever reason.
Well, is it do we have an argument to state that, hey, you know what, you skirted this issue, you need to go back and relook it, and I understand they may try to throw a cost at you, but, you know,
sure.
I just am curious.
That's definitely a possibility.
Okay, further comments? Let me just summarize mine. I've been very close to this. And made some notes as you all were speaking. First off, I think if I were a council member, I'd be concerned that the report was changed in the final week, taking something that they thought should be council's and not clearing that with the working group. It just was deleted because that was the easiest thing for them to do, and it satisfied someone in the staff at that time. To me, as a representative of the people, that would bother me, and that does bother me. We try to find out where does this work that effectively for a chief of staff or an assistant to the mayor and council. In what cities does it work effectively? And the answer to that is pretty universal. It only works when the city manager does not get involved. When the city manager lets the person work with the mayor, writes their ticket once a year, and has really nothing to do with them. That's where it works. I'm not sure that that's impressive, but that's where it works. I don't know if we want that. If in fact that's what it takes, why wouldn't you have the person work for the mayor in the first place? This person, and Councilmember Holland, you mentioned we're in and out. Really, the only ones that are in and out are the members of this small staff. They're in and out. The first one was here 2 years ago. She lasted a year and left, and very upset, by the way. The current one is as smart as any human being in this room, a lawyer, top in her class in college. She'll be leaving soon, too, if we don't tell her what her roles and responsibilities are, and that would be tragic, I think. But that's what you're facing. That's the in and out. It's not us. It's them. And because we seem to have difficulty telling them what they're supposed to do and where they are in the chain of command. I'm the regional chair for MAG. MAG is the most important regional office in this valley and then probably in the state. I have a very important responsibility there, and I need help doing it. The staff does not get involved in my regional chair business. The assistant and or the chief of staff do. They work with Dennis Smith. They work with those people of a much higher level, day in and day out. And if I'm successful as MAG chair, it's because of their efforts with MAG. The last thing they need is to be worried about their future career. And if I were the city manager, the new one coming in, I would want this resolved before I get here. The last thing you want to do is to face off with the mayor in your first week on the job. That doesn't make any sense. We should be able to have people. I'm not saying who the person. Obviously, I think the person should work for the mayor, but I'm more interested in having us agree to where the person should work, and wherever that's recommended, I'm going to live with that. But it would be great for that person to know not only who they work for, but what their duties are in that, and how that person interacts with those two competing forces, a city manager and a mayor. They compete everywhere. It's just that you've got to do it smartly, and I don't think we've done it very smartly here, and that's not an attack on any human being, frankly. We just haven't. And as I said last week or 2 weeks ago, I forget when it was, this isn't about a person doing right or wrong. This is about an inability of an organization to properly define the role and responsibility and reporting structure for that person. So that's where we are. Regarding the charter, the charter needs to be reviewed anyway. But if it needs to be changed for this, and there are legal arguments on that, Rourke, there's different views on that, but we'll go with yours. But certainly, while that was going on, this person would be more comfortable if they knew precisely what was expected of them. And that could be done instantaneously once you get the report. Regarding the responsibility of council, well, sometimes we think, well, administration is not our deal. Well, it isn't. But the charter says this: specific authority for determining organizational structure. This is in the charter today. The council also has authority to provide for the organization, conduct, and operation of the several offices and departments of the city as established by this charter, for the creation of additional departments, divisions, offices, and agencies, and for their consolidation, alteration, or abolition. In other words, you have every right by our Constitution, called the Charter, to move in the direction of providing clarity to this department. We aren't adding a department here. We're trying to provide clarity to it. I can assure you, in the conduct of my duty as mayor of the city of Goodyear, I need this thing resolved. And if I'm going to succeed for our people, I don't need the headache of people having difficulty understanding where they are in the organization. And the point is, the people who had difficulty doing that are some of our brightest people. So I think it's telling us a message that we need to clarify this. And that's all this is about. This isn't about Kavanaugh's opinion. This is about, we got an issue here. Matrix, no matter what they said twice that there's a lack of understanding here, that the position responsibility is not clear, and it should be clarified. And that's what this is. This is responding to that. So I can't imagine voting against this for $10,000 when you got people. And lastly, these are our best people. One thing in an organization you do, two things. One, you never lose your best people as long as you can do everything you can to retain them, because you're only as good as your best. Simple as that. And everybody in that organization deserves a clear understanding of their role and responsibility. And I don't think we've done that. And those two issues are absolutely salient in any discussion of a management structure. Councilmember Lohr?
Yes, Mayor, one thing I do want to clarify. I don't think any of us have ever thought that your chief of staff wasn't most important to you. And in fact, I think we try not to approach her many times because you are the man that needs someone by your side all the time for MAG and for other things that you have to do. So I just wanted to clarify that, because it came out that maybe we don't think that position is important. We do, and we know it's extremely important to you. We just differ on the other points, that's all.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to second that, what Councilman Lord said. But I also want to add that I think it's important that we get this issue resolved for future councils, not just for us, but future councils as well, and for our new city manager when they come in. So that's my reason for supporting
I haven't heard anything from you, Mayor, that we couldn't task Brian with coming up with solutions. So until we've given management a shot at solutions and asked them to come back with 3 or 4 different options to us to pick and choose from, and if we need to evaluate it further, we've got the staff on board, we've got the payroll we're supporting. Let's utilize the professional talent that we've got within the confines of City Hall to look outside the walls of our city and look at other cities within the valley that have very efficient and cohesive groups that seem to be able to work under a management structure. I'm not to the point of spending $10,500 when we haven't specifically as a body said to the management office, go fix it.
I said it many times.
You, not collectively, but collectively we haven't.
I would hope that just by my suggesting that there's some response there. There's been a problem here for 2.5 years, and this isn't new. Our chief of staff did find out that other cities do this differently. The question came up. In some cities, there's an auditor who reports directly to the council. That's something we should think about. Particularly since I was had an investigative reporter in my office today for half an hour about credit card use. It would have been nice if I had an auditor to help me with that, to report it to me. But the city clerk reports to council in some cities. The role of the city manager regarding the selection of an attorney and a judge varies per city. We do things differently. What you just want to do is do the best you can with what you have, where you are. But I think some of their ideas are sort of neat, but I'm not asking to implement them. I'm just saying we got a problem here, and I just hate to have these good people at the end of this rubber band being tossed around when they have so much capability for us. So that's my concern. But any further comment or?
Well, I just additionally want to say, if I could, $10,000 is not that much to be spending on something like this, as important as this. And I think it's money well spent to determine if this is the way this should be structured, and especially with the importance of this. And I think no one probably doesn't impact anyone more than the mayor, because he is the one who needs that support more than probably any of us. However, I use that support constantly, and it is I can see the problems with some things that I want to talk about, and I can't because I have to report to the city manager, therefore I have to do certain things. I can't talk about that. And if I reported to the mayor and to you, we could discuss that. So we really need to look into this, because then it's a trip to the attorney's office, and then at that point it's, well, we're not sure, so let's be careful and not do it. Well, gee, that's not an answer either. We need something more defined, and we need something that says who we are and where we're going. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Looks like we're fairly close on this. Why don't we go, everybody ready for roll call vote? Okay. And it's, a yes is to bring the consultant on board, and a no is not to. Correct? Okay.
Councilmember Sousa.
No.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Yes.
Councilmember Osborne.
No.
Councilmember Holland.
Yes.
Councilmember Lord.
No.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Nay.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
4-3 failed.
Okay.
Mayor, would you entertain asking management to come back to us with a memo about solutions and opportunities that exist in other cities about structure, and then that way we can give our opinion there? And if at that juncture we would wish to revisit this issue, I'd be open to revisiting the issue, but I'd like to hear from management. Sounds like you've had in-depth conversations.
We have not.
And we have not, and I'd like to hear from Brian's office, at least in the interims. I don't know if there's consensus on that.
No, I fully support that. I just would like to go through that process first.
I'm not in favor of that, but if there is 4 that want that, we certainly can do that.
Well, the problem with that is, at this juncture, I don't know what we're accomplishing by doing that, because this was going to take that all in. So I don't know that that's going to change anyone's opinion or change anyone's.
Yes.
Although, what it will help is that it will help immediately with the structure of this office and how one relates to the other. I mean, isn't that what this is? I mean, a lot of it's the relationship between the two people and what their particular jobs are. That's part of it. Is that not so? Who am I asking? Who am I going to ask this to? Who would like to answer that question?
If you hired the consultants, you could ask them.
Yeah, I know, but we didn't. We didn't, so I'm putting to staff. The ones we pay yearly, I'm putting it to them.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lord, certainly that would be part of the look to see the entire reporting structures of the office, especially in the Metro Phoenix area.
And then if they come up with that relationship between the chief of staff and the mayor has to be changed and has to be technically changed, then we'll look into it. But right now, I think Councilman Antoniuk and myself, would you like more information? I mean, the mayor does not.
I requested more information earlier.
So the ones that, are we in agreement, the ones that voted against this would like more information? Is that what we're saying?
Can I ask another question? I assume we're still on item 8A, Mayor, if you're entertaining discussion on the item.
Yes.
Is this HR is going through class and comp right now. We just did a survey of a number of different cities. Isn't this something that we could ask specific questions to include staff in the design of a survey of a variety of different cities by which you could get the information back and compile it in the same fashion that class and comp is going through now, without amending their contract and under the scope of their work that already exists that we've already paid for?
I'm not sure what their scope is. If you're just asking for a survey of what the organizational structure is of other cities, I don't think that's that difficult to get. But we can certainly pass along to HR and see.
Regarding your comment, Vice Mayor, the whole purpose in this was to get an independent voice. So if you want the city staff to continue to study this, that's certainly, and there's 4 people who want to do that. Losing the independent nature of this is tragic from my perspective, and it's very disappointing. But if the 4 of you want that,
I think it's better than dropping it totally.
Can I make a comment concerning
Yes.
that? Is there a reason, and I've not ever been able to understand this, look at some other city to see what some other city does before we do it? Why do we have to be like some other city? I'd like to know when we are really going to do what we said we were going to do, and that is be Goodyear and not some other city. I think I've said that since the day I was elected to this office. When are we going to be Goodyear and not try to be another city that we want to emulate or imitate? This is Goodyear. Why do we have to do things the way other cities do? And why do we need to look at what the other cities are doing if we think this is best for us, at least to research it and do the research on our own and come up with something that is unique, that someone else may look at and say, hey, Goodyear's doing it, and it works. But we don't know if it works, and we're not even giving it a chance to see if it works. Amen.
I'd like to, Mayor, if I could
Yes.
address Councilman Cavaliers. It's because you want to know what the best practices are, and you look at cities and you find out what worked for them and what didn't, and you evaluate that. That's the reason why you do that. And if it doesn't seem like, if you get the problem or the issues that are, that the other cities have had, hopefully you don't repeat them. That's the advantage.
There's an argument against that, too.
And Councilman Cavalier, I'd like to bring your attention to the fact that other cities are looking at us to see how we're doing things, right?
It surprises me.
Ooh.
thank you, Frank. I think we need to leave this subject,
Yeah,
and we'll go on to the next one. And that's consider adoption of an ordinance to rezone property for commercial development to be known as Abel Ranch Mercado. Oh, it's not far ahead. Okay.
Members of the council, thank you. Farhad's not available tonight, so I'm going to be in his place. This is an application to rezone approximately 41 acres from the agricultural and preliminary PAD zoning district to the C2 general commercial district. Property is located at the northeast corner of Citrus Road and Indian School Road. Immediately to the east of the subject property is the 10303 Business Park that the council recently rezoned to PAD for mixed-use industrial and commercial development. Located to the north is Talo Verde residential development by Beezer Homes that is partially under construction. Excuse me. The subject property is located entirely within the loop compatibility land use area as defined within the general plan. As you know, this is the areas of the city that are located inside the 65 LDN noise contour from Luke Air Force Base. The loop compatibility land use area in the general plan allows for location of community, commercial, light industrial, office development, and complexes consistent with the land uses permitted by the Arizona statutes for military airport within the noise contour areas. The request for the general commercial C2 zoning is consistent with the city's general plan. Provides for general commercial development. It's an appropriate location given the property's proximity to Luke Air Force Base. Also the property's location at the intersection of two arterial roadways and the access that's provided by those roadways. All future development within the property will be governed by the C2 zoning district, development standards, and the land uses defined within the C2 zone. Normally, more typically, you see these properties submitted for PAD, planned area development, which is one option to do these shopping centers of this size. The applicant in this request is requesting straight C2 zoning. Does not need the flexibility provided by the PAD for different setbacks or height standards, and is willing to live with the allowed uses within the C2 zone and all the development standards within the C2 zone. So this is a hard zoning to C2. To ensure a planned and unified commercial center on the property under the proposed C2 zoning, we have included a stipulation to the recommended action for the approval that will require the developer to submit a master site plan and architectural design guidelines that would result in a unified planned shopping center that would facilitate an attractive and integrated commercial center. That which you normally get through the PAD process, we can accomplish the same thing with hard zoning of C2 with that stipulation that requires that master plan. With that, Mayor, Council, staff is recommending approval of the requested rezoning subject to the 16 stipulations in the recommended ordinance. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anything from the applicant? Okay. Anything from the public? Any comments, questions? Okay, could I have a motion? Ask the clerk to read the ordinance by title only, please.
Adopt ordinance 07-1094, providing for conditional rezoning of 41 acres of land from the agricultural district and the preliminary planned area development district to the general commercial district to allow for development to be known as Able Ranch Mercado, generally located at the northeast corner of Indian School Road and Citrus Road. Amending supplementary zoning map number 07014 to provide for the change in zoning, providing separability, and providing for an effective date.
Could I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council adopt ordinance number 07-1094 as read by the city clerk.
And I'll second it.
Motion from Councilmember Souza and a second from Councilmember Cavalier. It's open for discussion.
Mr. Coons, what is the, between this subject property and Talo Verde Estates, what's the buffering that will be between these two? I'm sorry?
Mayor, Councilman Member Osborne, within the C2 zoning district, there is a minimum required setback for buildings adjacent to residential. I believe that is 50 feet plus minimum building setback for building heights of 30 feet or more, a minimum of 50-foot building setback, and then 1 foot of additional building height or setback, 5 foot of additional setback for each additional foot of building height over 30 feet, up to the maximum allowed building height of 56 feet. There's also minimum landscape buffer requirements between commercial properties and residential properties. And I believe that is a minimum of 10-foot landscape buffer with 24-inch box trees planted 20 feet on center.
So 10 feet next to the 50, or 10 is part of the 50?
10 is part of the 50.
10 is part of it. Well, the reason I ask this now is because if we're going from ag to commercial, I want to refresh my own memory about how that
If I might add, one other part of that is if I recall, the adjacent residential lots in Talo Verde to the north has a retention area to the south, which provides additional landscape buffer and setback to the lots itself.
Okay. And stipulation, whether it be now or in the future, regarding putting a sign letting these Sadea and Talo Verde estates know that a commercial property will be coming in the future. I would appreciate that.
Mayor, Councilman Osborne, you're correct. We did not include a stipulation in this action to rezone that would require the sign to be placed, providing notice to the general public of future commercial. Now would be the time to do that.
Okay, great. Well, that's good news.
If you, I believe if it's council's desires, an additional stipulation that would require the owner to post a sign on the property, providing notice to the public of the future commercial development, that sign to be consistent with the zoning ordinance standards would be appropriate language.
If everyone agrees. Lastly, a comment, though. I'm glad that this conceptual site plan will be coming back, because this screams to me Generica, and I would like to see it be done. Thank you.
Mr. Massey, do we need a motion for Councilmember Hollins to bring his request for a new specification?
I stepped out. Did we already make the motion?
Yeah. Yes, we did. Okay. Councilmember Osborne?
Oh, you want me to say that? Okay, I'd like to amend case number 07-200-00014, adding a stipulation regarding signage stating that future commercial posted, thank you. I wasn't ready to say it. Posted, well.
Adjoining communities.
That the owner,
Probably on Citrus.
Adjoining communities, would that do it?
On subject property on the Citrus side of the road.
Mayor, if I may
Usually
suggest
they finish that for me, I never have to say it.
that the owner shall erect a sign on the property informing the public of the proposed commercial development. Such sign shall be a minimum of 32 square feet, that's our standard, and shall be installed and within reasonable view of the general public.
Thank you, see, he did this.
My apologies for not including that
I'll
earlier.
I'll second that if it includes one sign on Citrus and one sign on Indian School.
Oh, you want to?
Yeah.
Would you agree to that? Okay, so two signs in total, and she's got a second.
I have a motion and a second. Comments on the motion? Councilmember Souza?
Mr. Mayor, does the amendment become a part of the original motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendment to the main motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0. Any further comments on the motion itself? Okay, could I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to resolution authorizing issuance and sale of municipal facilities revenue and refunding bonds. Larry Lang.
Thank you, Mayor, and
Could I interrupt?
Yes, sir.
I'll have to recuse myself for this too, because it includes the ballpark.
Oh, okay. Then Councilmember Cavalier will be recused from this particular subject.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I thought I would start out with an introduction of our finance team that is present this evening. Larry Given, representing Peacock, Hislop, Staley, and Given is our financial advisor and has been involved in the review of this transaction from that perspective. And Keith Hoskins, representing Gus Rosenfeld, has been our bond counsel on this particular project and drafted up the resolution. I wanted to make sure that you knew they were here for any questions you may have that I might not be able to answer. Resolution number 07-1197 primarily authorizes the sale of the Public Improvement Corporation bonds to fund the spring training facilities, which have already been approved by this City Council. In addition, proceeds will be used to refinance 2 existing bond issues that we have outstanding. One is a previous Public Improvement Corporation bond issue, which was used to finance the existing interim office building referred to as City Hall. And the second was an existing loan through the Greater Arizona Development Authority, which financed improvements to a fire station and improvements to the Pebble Creek Parkway. In total for this financing, we've asked you to approve in this resolution an amount not to exceed $78 million. The original resolution that we sent out had $75 million. However, we wanted to have it a little larger in case, as we moved forward, there were some switches between bond premium and the principal amount sold. So we went to that larger amount. If we actually went higher than the $75 million, we would have to go back to the Public Improvement Corporation to have that board also increase that amount, as they have already approved this transaction at $75 million, subject to your approval. The costs are outlined, but I'll go through those briefly. Stadium construction of $59 million. The acquisition of land, and this is the amount included in the STA application, of $18,750,000. City infrastructure improvements committed of $10 million, plus other improvements in that area, including improvements to the Bullard Wash, would be $6 million, excuse me, and the amount to put in for the refinancing would be approximately $6,750,000. All of those total $100 million. But the developer contribution in this is $12,500,000 in value of the land, and the general obligation bonds that we previously sold were $10 million. This is a not-to-exceed amount, and we expect the actual amount to be lower. The actual draft right now outstanding shows it to be somewhat slightly below the $75 million figure. These bonds are subject to reimbursement by the Sports and Tourism Authority under the agreement which was previously approved by this body. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Does the city clerk have the new number in your?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll be right with you, Rory. Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Could I have a big motion, please? I mean, the resolution.
Resolution 07-1197, approving the issuance and sale of not to exceed $78 million aggregate principal amount of the City of Goodyear, Arizona Public Improvement Corporation Municipal Facilities Revenue and Refunding Bonds Series 2007, authorizing the execution and delivery of a ground lease a lease purchase agreement, a trust indenture, a contract continuing disclosure certificate, a depository trust agreement, an assignment agreement, a bond purchase agreement, a letter of representations, and related documents, authorizing the delegation of duties to certain officers, ratifying the preparation and distribution of a preliminary official statement, and authorizing the finalization, execution, and distribution of an official statement, authorizing the taking of all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transaction contemplated by this resolution, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion, please, on the resolution as read by the city clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I move the council adopt resolution number 07-1197, approving the issuance and sale of not to exceed $78 million aggregate principal amount to the city of Goodyear, Arizona, as read by the city clerk. So move.
Second.
Okay, a motion from Councilmember Souza and a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. Open for discussion.
Mayor, this was not unexpected this evening. So, it is $78 million in bonds, but it wasn't unexpected. It was part of the process.
We argued over 10,000, but 78 is going to pass. 78 million is going to pass. Okay, can I have a roll call vote, please?
I stepped into that.
Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Is Councilmember Cavalier still with us? There you go. Okay, that completes the business part of our agenda this evening. Opportunity now for council to comment on the current events or information. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, I wasn't driving like a NASCAR driver on the way down to Mobile this past weekend. It was more like a Baja 500. So just, a little technical jargon. But myself, Councilmember Sousa, Councilmember Lord, and Councilmember Holland all headed down to Mobile in separate vehicles for the sake of the media. There wasn't four of us in one vehicle. But we had a great time with a number of the common residents that we're used to seeing. We saw them at the last pancake breakfast, and we can't get that road built down there probably soon enough in order to get our staff down there on a daily basis and to and from their place of work in terms of the fire and any other public safety folks that may be going down there, and now our sanitation folks that may be going down there as well to make some deliveries. So, definitely need to get that road built. So, I understand there might be a federal agency that might be holding us up. So, any arm fisting that can be done towards that federal agency in order to get that road built would probably go a long way towards our new residents' public safety, as well as the quality of life of the men and women that are going to be traveling back and forth to Mobile on a weekly or daily basis. So, but it was a good visit. Staff had a great showing. We had probably 15 to 25 different.
We outnumbered the residents.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but yeah, we closely matched. We had person from person to resident, and so it was a great opportunity for our new residents to get to know a lot of faces in the staff and ask a lot of questions one-on-one. We didn't get any group questions. But on the last note, I will add that Lily and her staff did a fantastic job organizing it. You've got a new member of your staff that is absolutely wonderful, Ms. McLaughlin, and she did a great job. You can tell she's seasoned in talking to the public and getting folks to consensus. So it was a good visit.
Councilmember Souza.
Mr. Mayor, the Vice Mayor did an excellent job in emceeing that program. But I want to correct you, sir. We had no pancakes. It was hot dogs.
No, it's similar to the pancake breakfast. That's right. We had hot dogs and hamburgers for breakfast.
All right.
It's good.
Okay.
Councilmember Holland?
I had one more. Just want to say that I attended Thursday and Friday the annual retreat for the AMRRP, which is the risk retention pool for the cities and towns in the state of Arizona. We met in Wickenburg and resolved several issues that are important not only to this city but to the entire membership that belongs to
the pool. That's my report, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holland.
I'm not Lord.
No, he met you.
I thought you wanted to go.
Yeah, I did, but
I'm sorry.
I thought you were looking at her.
I was.
So,
That's where I was going
Okay.
next.
Okay, I see. I just wanted to say that the thank yous that we had last week to the people that worked on GAIN was excellent, and it was so nice to see so many of those folks in attendance, and they did a great job. It was a great event, and I was glad for the thank you on Thursday night. And again, we had a thank you on Friday as well to the employees. So, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Councilmember Lord.
Yes, I attended with Harvey Krause and staff a luncheon this last week for the Arizona Planning Association, and the City Center won an award for their specific area plan, and Harvey and I went up and received the award. And did you get that back? Are you going to be presenting it to the council? Okay, all right. And so that was really a thrill for me. That's, you know how I feel about that. The other thing, yesterday, three of us, Council on, all right, I'm having
Can't remember her name.
Three council people attended the Arizona Children's Association luncheon that was sponsored by that association, and Senator Mendez and Senator Bundu were there. And I think they would like to come before us at a work session to explain what their organization does. And it was really interesting because 40% of the children that they serve come from the West Valley. So they're an advocacy organization. They do adoptions, they do safety, they do everything. And so they would like to come before us at a work session.
What was the name of that group again?
It's the Arizona Children's Association.
Oh, I see it.
It was founded in 1912, so it's been
1912.
around.
So Joanne Osborne, I do know her name.
Yeah, see, it's because I'm in that Generation X.
Yeah, and I'm that generation. I'm the generation that didn't have an age group.
Any further comments?
No.
Okay, comments from the city manager.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just a couple of items. One is there is no work session next week. We will be having our next regular meeting on November 26th. The other thing I just wanted to is a quick update. We had our annual employee summit last Friday, and we had certainly the mayor and several council members there. Appreciate that very much, those that were able to make it. And the best thing about it is we had a chance to recognize the great efforts of many of our staff through awards and recognition. Also those that have been here for any length of time, as well as sick leave, those types of things. We had a State of the City address that really helped to get employees up to speed on the projects that are going on. And lastly, Mr. Mayor, very much appreciate your remarks and the recognition personally. So I deeply appreciate that. Thank you.
No, thank you. Do we have any action items? I guess we do.
Oh, yes. We do have a couple of action items. We have, we're going to be looking in the buildup of unsold houses. Just for clarification, I presume that's new houses and not those that are sales.
And I've talked to Harvey, and he wants to do both. So we'll do both.
Okay. The other is I would ask that Water Resources follow up with Mr. Kirschbaum to find out about the odor problem that Lipsco was having. We just want to make sure that that gets satisfied. We will look at the Arizona Children's Association, I presume, under a communications item. Okay, so we can get that scheduled. And then lastly, I did receive direction on a business item that was discussed earlier tonight related to Office of Mayor and Council. So we'll do follow up there, and we will absolutely keep you updated as far as what we find out.
Okay, thank you. Inquiries from council to staff. Vice Mayor?
Follow up on Kirschbaum's issue. I don't know if you can ask staff, but getting off at I-10 and Litchfield Road today, where we had the backup before, there was quite a smell. I don't know if it's coming from the same place, but I know that's the low point. And so when you get off at Litchfield and I-10, if there's a spot check of our staff that drives by there once in a while, I don't know what's going on. But
There was a Bullard McDowell too this weekend.
yeah, just I'm assuming it's caused by the same issue, but you never know if there was a truck that was in front of you or whatever.
Okay, any other inquiries of staff? Okay, thank you. Meeting's adjourned.